My ex cheated, lied, framed me for theft and got me fired, so I waited, trapped her with her own words and took everything back. This is a long story spanning several years. Disclaimer: I'm using fake names for obvious reasons. Also, I'm writing this on mobile, so sorry for any formatting issues. Okay, Reddit. Before I, a 27-year-old male, get into the absolutely insane stuff that happened, let me give you some background about how this whole mess started. I promise the context is important. I'm Alex, and I grew up in a pretty average suburban town in Connecticut. You know the kind, with way too many Dunkin' Donuts, and where everyone somehow knows everyone else's business. My dad's been teaching math at the local high school forever. He's that teacher everyone remembers because he tells the worst dad jokes. My mom works as the elementary school librarian. Yeah, it was pretty awkward, having both parents in the school system growing up, LOL. We weren't rich or anything, but we did okay. We had a decent 3-bedroom house with a tiny backyard where Dad tried and failed to grow tomatoes every single year. My older sister Emma was the smart one, straight A's, debate team captain, the whole package. I was more the nerdy middle-of-the-pack kid, who spent too much time playing World of Warcraft and learning to code because I thought it would make me cool. So, anyway, this story really starts when I was around 6 years old. That's when Sarah, a 26-year-old female, moved into our neighborhood with her family. It was like one of those cheesy movie moments. I still remember seeing this moving truck pull up to the house 3 doors down from ours. Sarah's mom, Lisa, was this super outgoing PTA type who somehow convinced my introverted mom to help them unpack. They ended up talking for hours about books or something. I found out later they were both huge Stephen King fans. Sarah was this tiny blonde girl with massive glasses that made her look like a baby owl. The first time we actually hung out was when our moms forced us to play together while they had coffee. It was super awkward at first. I was this shy kid who'd rather be playing Pokemon, and she was actually pretty outgoing but didn't know anyone yet. But then she spotted my Nintendo 64 and absolutely destroyed me at Mario Kart. Like it wasn't even close. I'm talking blue shells, perfect drifts, the works. That was pretty much it. We were best friends after that. Our families got super close too, like we did everything together, barbecues, camping trips, which always ended in disaster because neither of our dads could actually set up a tent properly. Holiday celebrations, you name it. Sarah's dad, Mike, was this intimidating ex-military guy who looked like he could bench press a car, but he was actually a huge softie who cried at Disney movies. He worked in construction management and would always help my dad with house projects, which usually ended with them drinking beers and debating about the Yankees versus the Red Sox. Growing up, Sarah and I were literally inseparable. We were in most of the same classes, small town, only one elementary school, and we had this routine where I'd help her with math and she'd help me with English. Her family only lived 3 houses down, so we were constantly at each other's places. We had this secret knock and everything, 3 quick taps, pause, then 2 slow ones. Super secret spy stuff, obviously, LOL. Middle school was when things started getting a bit weird. You know how it is. Suddenly everyone's going through puberty and getting all awkward. Some kids started teasing us about being boyfriend and girlfriend, which made everything super uncomfortable for a while. We actually didn't talk for like 2 whole weeks in 7th grade because of some dumb rumor. But then Sarah got into this fight with Jessica Martinez, who started the rumor, during lunch, and somehow that fixed everything. Middle school logic, I guess. The funny thing is, both our families just assumed we'd end up together eventually. They weren't pushy about it or anything, but you'd catch these knowing looks between our moms whenever we'd have movie nights in the basement. My mom still has this photo album full of pictures of us growing up, everything from missing tooth grins in elementary school to awkward middle school dances. Oh God, my frosted tips phase, what was I thinking? What made our friendship work so well was that we were different enough to be interesting, but similar enough to get along. I was the guy who could spend hours taking apart computers and trying to figure out how they worked. Sarah was more of a people person. She could talk to anyone and somehow get them to like her. But we both loved video games and horror movies. We scared the crap out of ourselves watching The Ring when we were way too young, and had the same weird sense of humor. I guess what I'm trying to say is that this wasn't just some random relationship that went bad. This was 15+ years of friendship, family connections, and shared history. Our families literally planned vacations together, Sarah's mom was the first person I told when I got accepted to college. My mom helped Sarah pick out her prom dress. We had this whole support system and community built around our friendship. High school was when everything started shifting between me and Sarah. Quick disclaimer, this part might sound a bit cliché, but I swear this is exactly how it happened. Sometimes life really does play out like some teen movie, just with more acne and awkwardness. Freshman year started pretty normal. Sarah had finally convinced her mom to let her get contacts after literally years of begging. And I had hit a growth spurt over the summer that made me slightly less awkward looking. We were still best friends, still destroying each other at video games, still doing our homework together in my basement, while stuffing our faces with my mom's chocolate chip cookies. But here's where it gets interesting and kind of embarrassing, to be honest. Our school had this thing called the Homecoming Carnival every fall. Total small town stuff, bouncy castles, rigged games, cotton candy, you know the drill. Sarah and I always went together as friends, but sophomore year, she got asked by Jake Thompson. This dude was like the walking stereotype of a high school jock, football team, perfect hair, drove his dad's BMW to school. And for some reason it made me irrationally angry. I spent like 2 weeks being a total jerk about it. Kept making these passive-aggressive comments about Jake being a typical meathead. He actually turned out to be a really nice guy who's now a pediatrician, so past me was just being a jealous idiot. Sarah finally called me out on it during one of our study sessions. The conversation went something like this: "Sarah, why are you being such a jerk about Jake?" Me being a dumbass, "I'm not being a jerk." "Sarah, you literally just said his brain was probably made of protein powder." Me, "Well, maybe it is." Sarah, "Oh my God, are you jealous?" Me turning bright red, "What? No, that's stupid." But, plot twist, I was totally jealous. It just took my dense self another year to figure out why. Junior year was when everything changed. We were both taking AP classes because our parents had somehow convinced us it would look good for college, and Sarah was struggling with calculus. I was decent at math, so we started having these extra study sessions on weekends. One Saturday we were sitting in my basement going over limits or derivatives or some other math nonsense that we've never used since, and I just noticed her. Actually noticed her. The way she'd scrunch up her nose when she was confused. How she'd tap her pencil against her lip when thinking. How she'd get this proud little smile when she finally understood something. And then she looked up and caught me staring at her like an idiot. I'd love to say I smoothly confessed my feelings or did something romantic. Nope. I panicked, knocked over my Mountain Dew, classy I know, and in trying to clean it up, somehow managed to headbutt her when she bent down to help. Romance at its finest, folks. But then, in the middle of both of us apologizing and trying to save our calculus notes from the Mountain Dew flood, she kissed me. Just grabbed my face and went for it. I was so shocked I just sat there like a statue for a solid few seconds before my brain caught up. When we finally came up for air, the first thing out of my mouth was, "But what about Jake?" "Yeah, I'm real smooth." She just laughed and told me Jake had asked her to the carnival because he wanted advice about asking out my sister, Emma. Apparently, everyone but me had known this. The next few weeks were weird, but in a good way. We didn't tell anyone at first, tried to act normal around our families, but we were terrible at hiding it, embarrassingly bad. My mom caught us making out in the kitchen after school once, and Sarah's dad walked in on us holding hands while watching movies, which somehow felt more intimate than the kissing. The reactions were interesting. Our moms literally high-fived each other. My dad tried to give me the talk 3 years too late, and mostly just made car metaphors that made no sense. Sarah's dad, Mike, who I mentioned before could probably bench press me with one arm, sat me down for the talk. Picture this. I'm this scrawny 16-year-old kid sitting in their living room while this massive ex-military guy cleans his hunting rifle. I'm 90% sure he did this for dramatic effect. He tells me that if I ever hurt his baby girl, they'd never find all the pieces. Then he immediately offered me a beer, which I was too terrified to accept, and asked if I wanted to watch the game. Peak dad behavior. Senior year was basically us being that annoying couple everyone hates. We did everything together, studied for SATs, went to football games. Well, Sarah cheered, I sat in the bleachers trying not to freeze, planned for college. We even did the matching Halloween costumes thing, Mario and Luigi. We switched it up, and she was Mario because she was still better at the games. The college thing was tough though. I got accepted to RIT for computer science. Yeah, shocking, the nerd wanted to do computers. And Sarah got into UConn for business marketing. They're like 5 hours apart. We had this big dramatic talk about whether we should try long distance or break up, typical 18-year-old what is our love story nonsense. So there we were. Two dumb teenagers convinced we could make long distance work. I headed off to RIT with my cargo shorts and gaming laptop. Yeah, I was that guy. While Sarah went to UConn, looking like she'd just stepped out of a college brochure. The first semester was actually pretty good, not going to lie. We had this whole system worked out. Video calls every night at 10 o'clock unless I was pulling an all-nighter coding, which was often, texted constantly, had this shared Netflix account, and would sync-watch shows together while on the phone. One of us would make the drive every other weekend, usually me, because Sarah had cheer practice on Saturdays. Pro tip, a 5-hour drive in a beat-up 2008 Honda Civic with a heater that only works on full blast is not as romantic as movies make it seem. Funny story, the first time I visited her at UConn, I got totally lost trying to find her dorm. I ended up wandering around campus for 2 hours in the rain because my phone died. This becomes a recurring theme in my life, apparently. I finally found her building, looking like a drowned rat, only to discover her roommate had exiled her, and she'd been waiting for me in the campus coffee shop the whole time. Peak college experience, right there. The college years were this weird mix of really good and really hard. We both joined clubs, me with the coding team, shocking, her with the marketing society, made new friends, tried new things. Sarah got really into yoga and tried to teach me. There's a video somewhere of me falling on my face attempting a downward dog. That video will never see the light of day if I can help it. But here's where I started missing some red flags. Looking back now, they're so obvious it hurts. Flag number 1. Sarah started getting weird about me meeting her new college friends. Always had some excuse why I couldn't come to their parties when I visited. Said it was because they were just for the marketing crew or whatever. I bought it because I was an idiot who trusted her completely. Flag number 2. Her Instagram started filling up with photos from parties and bars, always with the same group of people I never met. There was this one guy, Chris, remember this name, it becomes important later, who kept showing up in the photos. She said he was just the marketing society president. Flag number 3. Our video calls got shorter. She was always busy with group projects or had early morning meetings. Meanwhile, I'm sitting in my dorm at 1 o'clock in the morning, like a dumbass, debugging code and waiting for her to call. But you know what? I made excuses for everything. She's networking, she's building her future career, she's just busy. God, I was dense. Senior year, things seemed to get better. We both had job offers lined up in Hartford. Me at this promising tech startup with a competitive salary, good benefits, the whole package, her at this big marketing firm. We found this cute little apartment that we could actually afford if we split the rent. Everything was falling into place. Graduation was this big family affair. Both our families came, took about 1 million photos, went out to this fancy dinner where our dads got drunk and sang karaoke. Imagine 2 middle-aged dudes absolutely butchering Sweet Caroline. We moved in together that summer. The apartment wasn't anything special, 1 bedroom, tiny kitchen, that weird smell in the hallway that nobody could explain. But it was ours. We adopted this cat from the local shelter, this derpy orange tabby with 1 eye who kept falling off the furniture. Named him Mr. Whiskers, Sarah's choice. I wanted to call him Nick Furry, but I got vetoed. I was crushing it at my job, working on this big project that could have led to a promotion. Sarah seemed to be doing well too. Lots of late nights at the office. But she said that's just how marketing is. She'd come home talking about all these big clients and campaigns. I was so proud of her. I started saving up for a ring around then, had this whole proposal planned out, was going to take her to this lake where we had our first real date back in high school, had the whole speech written and everything. I even went ring shopping with Emma, my sister, who flew in specifically to help, because she said she didn't trust my taste in jewelry. Fair enough. The apartment started feeling like home. We had our routines, Sunday morning pancakes, mine always came out weirdly shaped, movie nights with Mr. Whiskers wedged between us on the couch, silly arguments about whose turn it was to do laundry. We started talking about maybe buying a house in a few years, had this whole 5-year plan mapped out. You know what's funny? Even now, writing this from my new apartment, I sometimes miss those days. Not her, definitely not her, but that feeling of having everything figured out, that certainty that your life was on the right track, that belief that the person sleeping next to you would never in a million years betray you. All right. This is the part that still makes my hands shake when I type it out. Pour yourself a drink because this is where everything hits the fan. It was a Tuesday night in March. Remember how I mentioned I was working on this big project at work? Well, we were doing this major system deployment that night, like career-making stuff. I'd been coding for about 14 straight hours, surviving on Red Bull and those weird off-brand Hot Pockets from the corner store. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, my phone died. Completely dead. I couldn't find my charger anywhere. Found out later Mr. Whiskers had knocked it behind the radiator. That one-eyed menace had a talent for chaos. I needed to message my team lead, Jake, about some critical bug fixes, and Sarah was asleep, so I figured I'd just grab her phone real quick to send a Discord message. Here's where my whole world imploded. As soon as I unlocked her phone, yeah, we knew each other's passwords, been that way since forever, I saw this notification from Chris Work. Remember Chris from her marketing society? Yeah, that Chris. The message preview just said, "Miss you, baby. Can't wait for..." I know what you're thinking, and yeah, I probably should have just woken her up and asked about it, but something in my gut just knew. You know that feeling when your whole body goes cold and your stomach drops? That's what hit me. I opened the messages. I wish I hadn't. The messages went back months, hundreds of them. Pictures, plans, hotel receipts. Those late nights at the office weren't for work. Those marketing society reunions weren't reunions. Turns out, Chris wasn't just some college friend. He was her department head at work, 15 years older than us, married with kids. They'd been having an affair for almost the entire time we'd been living together. Some choice messages I still can't get out of my head. Can't wait till you finally leave him. Last night was amazing, baby, he's so clueless. Still planning that stupid proposal. Yeah, she knew about the ring because my sister couldn't keep her mouth shut. I just sat there on our IKEA couch that we'd spent 3 hours building together while laughing about the weird Swedish names, for what felt like hours, scrolling through message after message. Each one was like a knife to the gut. Then Mr. Whiskers knocked something off the kitchen counter, probably trying to help, honestly, and the noise woke Sarah up. She came out of the bedroom, all sleepy and confused, asking why I was still up. I just held up her phone. The look on her face, I'll never forget it. Not shock, not shame, just annoyance, like I'd inconvenienced her by finding out. What followed was the most surreal conversation of my life. She didn't even try to deny it, just stood there in her stupid pajamas, the ones with little cats on them that I'd gotten her for Christmas, and told me how Chris was her soulmate, and how she'd been trying to find the right time to tell me. The right time? After 20+ years of friendship, after 5 years of dating, after we'd built a whole life together, she was waiting for the right time? I lost it. Not violently, I've never been that guy, but I started laughing, like hysterical laughter. The kind that's basically crying but your body doesn't know the difference anymore. I asked her if there had been a right time during all those family dinners, all those vacation plans, all those nights I held her when she was stressed about work. Probably stressed about her boss, but whatever. She started crying then, said I was being cruel. Cruel. The audacity, right? I told her to get out, just get out, take whatever she needed for the night and go to her parents' or Chris's or wherever the hell she wanted. But she couldn't stay here. But it's 2 o'clock in the morning, she said, like I was being unreasonable. Should have thought about that before your boss for a year, I said. Not my proudest moment, but hey, I think I was entitled to some pettiness. She packed a bag while I just sat there staring at Mr. Whiskers, who was watching the whole thing like it was premium cat entertainment. The last thing she said before leaving was, "We need to talk about this properly tomorrow." I changed the locks the next morning. But here's the thing, Reddit. This isn't even the worst part. This isn't the part that destroyed my life, because what she did next, that's when things got really messed up. Remember how I said her dad, Mike, was this scary ex-military guy, and how her mom, Lisa, was like a second mother to me, and how our families were all tangled up together? Yeah, she had a nuclear option, and she used it. You guys remember how I said Sarah knew how to talk to people and get them on her side? Yeah, turns out I had severely underestimated just how good she was at manipulation. The day after I kicked her out, I basically went into hermit mode. I called in sick to work, shout out to Jake, my team lead, who just said, "Take all the time you need, without questions." turned off my phone, and spent the day stress cleaning the apartment while Mr. Whiskers supervised from his cat tower. I found one of her hair ties under the couch and had a minor breakdown. You know, normal breakup stuff. Around 7 o'clock in the evening, my sister Emma started spam calling my landline. Yeah, I had a landline because the cell reception in our building sucked. Welcome to Connecticut. When I finally picked up, she was like, "What the hell did you do?" Turns out, while I was stress organizing our spice rack, Sarah had been busy. Really busy. Her version of events, which she'd spread to both our families, our friend group, and basically anyone who would listen, went something like this. 1. I had been cheating on her with some girl from work. Completely false. The only woman I talked to at work was Linda from HR, who was 60 years old and brought pictures of her grandkids to every meeting. 2. When she confronted me about it, I got violent and kicked her out in the middle of the night. The only accurate part was the middle of the night thing. 3. I had been emotionally abusive for months, controlling her social life and monitoring her phone. The irony, right? 4. The grand finale. I had stolen her mom's family heirloom jewelry collection. We're talking about pieces that had been passed down for generations. Worth around $50,000 total. That last part, that's what really did it, because Lisa, Sarah's mom, had actually noticed her jewelry was missing about a week before all this went down. Sarah had convinced her to wait before reporting it, saying she'd look around the house first. Guess who had a key to their house? This guy. Guess who had been there multiple times unsupervised because they trusted me like family? Also this guy. I tried calling my parents, no answer. Tried Sarah's parents, blocked. Our mutual friends either blocked me or sent messages calling me a piece of garbage. The only person still talking to me was Emma, and that's because she, in her words, knows what a stupid dumbass I am, and that I couldn't lie to save my life. Then came the Facebook posts. Holy hell, the Facebook posts. Sarah's mom wrote this long, heartbreaking post about family betrayal and how you never really know someone, tagged my parents in it. The comments were not kind to me. My mom finally called me the next day. You know what's worse than your mom being angry at you? Your mom crying and asking why did you do it? Not even giving me a chance to explain, just assuming I was guilty because Sarah would never lie about something like this. I tried to tell my side of the story, mentioned the messages I'd found. Sarah had already covered that base, told everyone I was making up lies because I got caught, and since I'd been too shocked to take screenshots before she deleted everything, I had no proof. That's when the police showed up at my door. 2 officers, looking all serious, said they were investigating a theft, asked me where I was on specific dates, which, by the way, matched up perfectly with times I'd been at Sarah's parents' house helping her dad with his computer. They had security camera footage of me entering and leaving their house on those days. I explained I was there because, I was dating their daughter and had been a family friend for 20 years. They took notes, looked skeptical, and said they'd be in touch. 3 days later, while I was at work trying to fix the bugs from the deployment I'd missed, they came back with a warrant. Ever been arrested in front of your entire office while Linda from HR watches in horror and your team lead drops his coffee mug? 0 out of 10 would not recommend. I spent 3 nights in county lockup. 3 nights. My cellmate was this guy named Big Mike, who was actually pretty cool, gave me half his bologna sandwich, and told me all about his theory that pigeons are government drones. But still, not exactly where I pictured myself at 27 years old. I got released because, surprise, surprise, they couldn't find any evidence I'd stolen anything. But by then, 1, I'd missed the critical deployment window at work, so the project I'd been leading for months was completely derailed. 2, my face had been on the local news as a suspected jewelry thief. 3, my neighbors had started giving me those looks. You know the ones. 4, Mr. Whiskers was pissed because his automatic feeder had run out. Thanks, Emma, for checking on him. When I got back to work, HR called me in. Linda couldn't even look me in the eye as she explained that, due to my unauthorized absence and the negative publicity, they had to let me go. Even Jake, who'd been super supportive, just stood there looking uncomfortable. So there I was, jobless, friendless, with most of my family thinking I was a thief and an abuser. My rent was due in a week, my savings were about to go to a lawyer, and the only living thing that still trusted me was a one-eyed cat who'd spent 3 days stress shedding all over my black work pants. But you want to know the really messed up part? This wasn't even rock bottom, not yet, because Sarah wasn't done with me, not by a long shot. After getting fired, I basically became a hermit. I couldn't afford the apartment anymore, so I had to move back in with my parents. Yeah, the same parents who still weren't sure if I was a thief. Most awkward U-Haul drive of my life, let me tell you. The first few weeks were rough. My dad would hide his wallet when he left for work. Subtle, Dad, real subtle. Mom would cry randomly while doing dishes. My old room still had pictures of me and Sarah on the walls, which was just chef's kiss perfect for my mental health. The only constants in my life were, 1. Mr. Whiskers, who my parents initially didn't want in the house but fell in love with after he kept bringing them dead mice as gifts. 2. Emma, who took leave from her medical residency to come home and, in her words, stop me from becoming a full-time Reddit troll. 3. My therapist, Dr. Chen. Shout out to sliding scale payment options. Remember how I said this wasn't rock bottom yet? Well, here it comes. About a month after moving home, I got served with a civil lawsuit. Sarah and her family were suing me for the value of the jewelry plus emotional damages. Their lawyer sent this thick package of documents, including character witness statements from our mutual friends about what a terrible person I was. That night, I had what Dr. Chen later called a complete psychological breakdown. I found myself sitting on the floor of my childhood bathroom at 3 o'clock in the morning, eating stale Oreos and Googling how to move to Alaska and become a hermit. Mr. Whiskers sat with me the whole time, occasionally stealing Oreos, bros before, well, you know. Emma found me there the next morning, took one look at the Oreo massacre on the floor, and went into full big sister mode. She borrowed money from her savings to get me a decent lawyer. I'm still paying her back. Forced me to shower and put on real pants. Dragged me to the gym because apparently endorphins are important or whatever. Then she did something that actually changed everything. She made me write down a plan. Not some vague get my life back, but an actual step-by-step guide. We called it Operation Phoenix. Yeah, we're nerds. Shut up. The plan went like this. 1. Document everything. Emma made me write down every interaction with Sarah, every false accusation, every job application rejection. I started keeping a journal, which sounds lame but actually helped a lot. 2. Focus on career rebuild. I started doing freelance coding work on Upwork. The pay was terrible, but it was something. I took every certification course I could afford, learned cloud architecture because apparently that's where the money is. 3. Physical health. Turns out the gym actually helps when you're depressed. Who knew? Everyone knew. I was just stubborn. 4. Build a new support system. I found this local tech meetup group, met some cool people who didn't know my criminal history. One guy, Marcus, ended up becoming a good friend and later helped me get my current job. 5. Legal defense. My lawyer, Maria, another friend of Emma's, was a pit bull in heels. She helped me file a countersuit for defamation and started gathering evidence. The lawsuit dragged on for months. Sarah's family kept pushing for a settlement, probably thinking I'd crack. But here's the thing about hitting rock bottom. Once you're there, you've got nothing left to lose. Slowly, things started turning around. I got a contract gig with a startup in Hartford. The owner didn't care about my criminal record because his brother had gone through something similar. The contract work turned into a full-time offer. I started hanging out with the tech meetup group more. They were all weird in their own ways, which made me feel less alone. Marcus introduced me to rock climbing, which is apparently what software engineers do now instead of having normal hobbies. My parents started coming around too. I caught Dad playing with Mr. Whiskers when he thought no one was watching. Mom stopped hiding her jewelry. Progress. I found out later that Emma had been showing them the documentation we'd been gathering, slowly convincing them something wasn't adding up about Sarah's story. The real breakthrough came from the most unexpected place. Linda from my old job. Remember her, the HR lady with the grandkid photos? She reached out through LinkedIn, of all places, to tell me she'd been seeing some weird expense reports from Sarah's department before everything went down. Lots of business dinners and client meetings at hotels. She couldn't say more because of HR confidentiality, but she gave us enough to start pulling threads. By the 1-year mark of the incident, I had a new job with better pay than my old one, an apartment I could afford on my own with a sweet cat tower for Mr. Whiskers, some actual friends who knew the whole story and still wanted to hang out, visible abs, okay, like 2 abs, but still, and a lawyer who was starting to smile during our meetings. Always a good sign. Was everything perfect? Hell no. I still had nightmares sometimes. Still got weird looks from old family friends at the grocery store. Still couldn't watch romantic comedies without wanting to throw things at the TV. But I was surviving. More than surviving, I was rebuilding. And then, because the universe has a sick sense of humor, that's when Sarah showed up at my door. It was a random Wednesday evening. I had just finished a coding sprint at work and was about to order Thai food. Pad Thai with extra peanuts. Fight me. Mr. Whiskers was doing his usual, I'm not hungry, but I see you moving toward food-related items dance around my feet. Then came the knock. Not going to lie, after everything that happened, I'd gotten paranoid about unexpected visitors. I installed one of those Ring doorbells. Best investment ever. I checked the camera, and there she was, Sarah, standing there in her expensive work clothes, looking like she'd been crying. My first instinct was to pretend I wasn't home, but then I remembered what Emma and Dr. Chen had been drilling into my head about facing your demons or whatever. Plus, Mr. Whiskers had already meowed loudly enough to give away that someone was definitely home. But here's the thing about hitting rock bottom and climbing back up, it changes you. The old Alex would have opened the door, ready to either apologize or argue. The new Alex? He hit record on his phone before opening the door. Yeah, I'd learned a few things over the past year. She looked different. Not bad different, just defeated. The polished marketing executive was gone. Her eyes were red, mascara slightly smudged. She tried to hug me, the audacity. But I stepped back. Can we talk? She asked, like we were in some rom-com where the ex shows up for a heartfelt reunion. I let her in because 1, I was curious what possible explanation she could have, and 2, Mr. Whiskers was already giving her his best judgmental one-eyed stare from his cat tower. What happened next was honestly surreal. She started crying, like full-on ugly crying, which, I'll admit, gave me a bit of satisfaction. And then she just confessed everything, the whole thing, with my phone recording every word. Turns out, 1, the affair with Chris had been going on for over a year. 2, she'd stolen her mom's jewelry to help pay off Chris's gambling debts. 3, when she realized she couldn't return the jewelry because Chris had already sold it, she panicked. 4, the false accusations against me were her way of covering everything up. 5, Chris had recently left her for some 22-year-old intern at their company. The best part? She actually said these exact words. I'm so sorry for falsely accusing you, using you, and making you get arrested. I know I destroyed your career and your relationships with our families. I just couldn't admit I was the one who took the jewelry because it would ruin my image. My lawyer later told me those were the most beautiful words she'd ever heard. Pure poetry. But wait, it gets better. Remember how I mentioned Linda from HR had noticed weird expense reports? Turns out Chris had been embezzling from the company, using fake client meetings to cover his gambling habit. Sarah had helped him doctor the paperwork. When Chris dumped her, he also threw her under the bus at work. She was about to be fired and possibly charged with fraud. That's why she came to me. She thought maybe if she came clean I'd help her out of sympathy. She actually asked if we could get back together, said she'd realized what she lost. I just sat there, letting my phone record every word while Mr. Whiskers cleaned his butt in the background. He's got excellent dramatic timing. When she finally ran out of steam, I just said, "Thanks for telling me all this. I think you should leave now, that's it." She asked, "Don't you have anything to say?" "Yeah," I said, "you should probably get a good lawyer." The look on her face when she realized what just happened? Priceless. I called my lawyer Maria immediately after Sarah left. She literally squealed when I played her the recording. Turns out, Connecticut is a one-party consent state for recordings, and Sarah had just handed us a golden ticket. What followed was a thing of beauty. 1, the recording was submitted as evidence in both the civil suit and my countersuit. 2, Sarah's family dropped their lawsuit immediately. 3, my countersuit for defamation and damages proceeded full steam ahead. 4, the company Sarah and Chris worked for opened a full investigation into the fraud. 5, several of our old friends reached out to apologize after the truth came out. The best part? Sarah's mom Lisa found out about the jewelry confession when the recording was played during a legal meeting, watching her realize that her daughter had stolen from her and let me take the blame. I almost felt bad, almost. That was 2 months ago. Since then, Sarah and Chris are both under investigation for fraud, I won my countersuit, we're still working out the settlement details. My parents have apologized about 1,000,000 times. Most of our old friend group has reached out to make amends. Mr. Whiskers got a new cat tower, he deserved it. The money from the lawsuit won't undo the past year, but it'll help. I've already paid back Emma, started a therapy fund, and bought a better car, RIP, old Honda Civic. More importantly, I've got my reputation back. The local news that ran the story about my arrest? They did a follow-up piece about false accusations and their impact. I even got some job offers out of it, though I'm staying with my current company. They stood by me through all this. So here I am, 1 year and 4 months after my life exploded, single, successful, with a one-eyed cat and a story that's apparently worth 7 Reddit posts. Not where I thought I'd be at 28 years old, but honestly, I'm okay with that. Lessons learned. 1. Always trust your gut. 2. Keep receipts for everything. 3. One-party consent recording laws are your friend. 4. Cats are excellent judges of character. 5. Sometimes rock bottom is just the foundation for something better. Final update. Since people keep asking, yes, Mr. Whiskers is still living his best life. No, I'm not dating yet. Trust issues, who would have guessed? Yes, I'm still going to therapy. And no, I don't miss Sarah. Some bridges are better left burned. Edit. Holy hell, this blew up. Rep my inbox again. Edit 2. Thanks for all the awards. I'm donating the equivalent amount to our local animal shelter where I got Mr. Whiskers. Edit 3. You can stop DMing me for Sarah's contact info. She's about to be very busy with legal proceedings anyway.